Big John here with Unfiltered. Today, we're going to spend a long time talking about one man, Kansas City Mayor Quinton Lucas. I'm going to walk through his background, the promises he made when he first ran, the things he has actually accomplished, and the things that look good in a press release but don't mean much in real life. The years of high crime, the tax situation, the housing situation, and why a lot of people in this city and this state do not want him to run as governor or senator. I'm going to give him credit where credit is due. I'm also going to be honest about the failures. That's the only way to do this right. If you live in Kansas City, Independence, or Northland, or anywhere in the metro, this episode is for you. Stay with me. Let's go. Who is Quinton Lucas? Lucas grew up in Kansas City. He went to Washington University in St. Louis for both undergrad and law school. He came back home, got onto the city council in 2015, representing the 3rd District at large, and then ran for mayor in 2019. In that 2019 race, he ran as a young, progressive, neighborhood focused candidate. He positioned himself against the big downtown interest. He said he was going to be different. He talked about fixing crime, fixing housing, and making the city work for regular people instead of just the developers and the big projects. Well, he won. Then he won re-election. He is now in his final term because of his term limits. That is the basic background. Now let's talk about what he promised and what actually happened. When Quinton Lucas ran for mayor, he made some very clear promises. I will list the main ones, and then we're going to look at each one in detail. Promise number one, he was going to get serious about violent crime. He talked about wanting to get homicides under 100 a year. Promise number two, he was going to be the housing mayor. He was going to make housing more affordable and address homelessness. Promise number three, he was going to focus on neighborhoods instead of just downtown and big shiny projects. I think you're starting to see a trend here. Promise number four, he was going to improve basic city services, streets, trash, the things people actually notice every day, without constantly raising the cost of living. Promise number five, he was going to bring more accountability and transparency to City Hall. Those are the big ones. Let's take them one by one and see what the record actually shows. Well, crime. It's the biggest failure. This is the one that hurts the most. When Quinton Lucas took office, Kansas City had already had a serious violent crime problem. Under his watch, it got worse before it got better. Let's look at the homicide numbers, because the numbers don't lie. In 2021, the city had around 157 homicides. In 2022, it was around 171. In 2023, Kansas City hit 185 homicides, one of the deadliest years in modern history for this city. In 2024, it came down some into the mid 140s. In 2025, it came down further to around 138 or 139. The mayor and the police chief had been pointing to the recent drops. And yes, the direction in 2025 was better. Non fatal shootings were down significantly. Robberies were down. Some property crime categories improved. But let's be honest about the full picture. Going from 185 murders down to 138 is better. It's not success. It is still extremely high of a number of people being killed in this city every year. Families are still burying their kids. Neighborhoods are still dealing with the trauma. And remember what he said early on. He talked about wanting to get under 100 homicides a year. That goal was never close to being met, not even close. He also spent years in conflict with the Board of Police Commissioners over funding and control. In 2021, he tried to redirect some police money. That got struck down in court. Those fights created tension at a time when they needed maximum focus on public safety. I want to say this clearly. Recent progress is real, and it should be acknowledged. But the overall record of crime under Quinton Lucas is not something to celebrate. Too many people died, while the city tried different approaches, and while the mayor built his national profile. That's the hard truth. Let's look at his claim about being the housing mayor. Lucas made a big deal about being the housing mayor. He fully funded the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. He talks about it constantly. Some units have been built or preserved, but let's look at the lived experience of regular people. Has housing in Kansas City become more affordable for working families under his watch? Well, for a lot of people, the answer is no. Rents are still high, buying a house is still out of reach for many young people and working families. Homelessness is still very visible in parts of the city. It's at a highest rate visibly that I've ever seen in my life. I have never seen so many people in the streets of Kansas City who are homeless. Government housing funds and trust funds sound good, but they often move slowly. Benefit the nonprofits and the developers who know how to work the system and do not solve the bigger supply problem. Zoning rules, regulations, and the overall cost of building still make it hard to create enough housing. So yes, he funded the trust fund. That is real action. But the results on the ground for affordability have been limited. Calling yourself the housing mayor is easy. Delivering actual affordable housing at scale is hard, and that part is still unfinished. Now let's focus on infrastructure and basic services. Give him credit here. The new single terminal at KCI opened in 2023. It is nicer than the old one. Travelers like it. The project was already in the pipeline, but it got finished on his watch, and he gets to claim it. He has pointed to the street resurfacing, claims that a meaningful percentage of the city streets have been worked on after years of underinvestment. Some roads are better. People notice when their streets get fixed. Those are real things. But basic infrastructure is the minimum job of city government. Fixing streets and finishing an airport terminal that was already planned is competent management. It is not transformative leadership. And while some streets got better, a lot of people still feel the city is nickel and diming them with taxes and fees while the big problems remain. Speaking of taxes, that is where a lot of working families feel the squeeze. Property taxes in Jackson County have been a major source of anger. Assessments jump for a lot of homeowners. Lucas himself complained when his own assessment went up significantly. Funny how that works, right? The city continues to rely on the earnings tax. The special taxes and incentives for projects keep coming. When the cost of living goes up, higher taxes, higher insurance, higher everything, and the wages don't keep pace. People feel it. The pressure has been real during his time in office. There have been questions about a nonprofit paying for travel and expenses and experiences that looked a lot like gifts. There were accusations of skirting the city's gift ban. There was a whistleblower situation. Even if nothing was found to be illegal, it created appearance of the same insider culture he claimed he would clean up. Appearances matter in public office. When people already feel the city isn't working for them, these stories feed the distrust and they get magnified. Lucas is a term limited as mayor. He has flirted with the idea of running for Congress. In March 2026, he announced that he would not run for Congress in 2026, at least not at the time. He still has a national profile and he is still often talked about a possible future candidate for higher office, whether it's for Congress, governor, or Senate. But here's the reality. In Kansas City, Jackson County, and across Missouri, a lot of people do not want that. Inside the city, he still has support in certain circles. Outside the core, progressive base, in the suburbs, among independents, and across the rest of the state, he is widely seen as the progressive big city mayor who presided over years of high crime and rising costs. Missouri is not a friendly state for that brand statewide. Even some Democrats quietly worry he is too tied to Kansas City's problems and too left to win a broader race. That is why you hear people say nobody wants him for governor or senator. It is not just online noise, it reflects a real political calculation. Let me try to summarize this as fairly as I can. Quinton Lucas is a skilled politician. He is good on camera, he's good at framing issues. He finished the new airport terminal, he has gotten some streets fixed, he funded a housing trust fund. In the last couple of years, violent crime numbers have moved in a better direction from the terrible peaks of 2022 and 2023. But from where they were prior to him, it didn't fix anything. Those are the real things, and they deserve to be acknowledged. At the same time, the overall record has serious failures. The homicide numbers for most of his tenure were unacceptably high. The promise to get under 100 murders a year was never close. Housing affordability for regular people has not been solved. The tax and cost of living pressure is real. The conflicts with the police board created unnecessary tension, and the gap between the progressive rhetoric and the daily experience for many Kansas City families is wide. From where I sit, the city needs a mayor who is obsessed with them, with public safety, basic services, and keeping cost under control. Instead, we've got a mayor who is very good at the national conversation and progressive branding, while the hardest local problems took years to even start improving. That's his record. Lucas's time as mayor is almost over because of term limits. The question now is, what comes next for him? And more importantly, what kind of leadership Kansas City gets after him? If you live in Kansas City, pay attention. The next few years will matter. That's the episode. Head over to finflam.com for more. Drop your thoughts in the comments. What has Lucas's time as mayor actually felt like for you and your family? Thanks for listening. Stay sharp. God bless.